somebody sends, or you're asked to send something about yourself, and you hide behind these books. Well, I'm the youngest of 7 children, and I'm from the Republic of Ireland, from the south of Ireland, and my mother was about 94, and she had one of the books I had written, and she was looking at it, and her carer came in to see her, picked up the book, I was there, picked up the book. The carer didn't know I had written the book. She looked at it and she said to my mother, "Aren't you great reading that old boring thing?" So it always reminds me, that books are very limited, and people are so interesting. And the stories of people that I've heard here have been absolutely inspiring. And they're all about identity and empathy and the journey and the belief system we have and the peace that we're all thirsting for and trying to work towards. So my job is an educator in Mary Immaculate College, which is in the south of Ireland, and I have the privilege of learning with and learning from students who are going to be teachers, beginning teachers, and they're going to go out into schools and teach the most amazing children of all beliefs, of all ethnicities and colours and creeds. So my job is a very difficult job, and it's a wonderful job, and I have so much to learn from everybody here. So I suppose the first thing I want to say is that religions and beliefs are contested and complex. So as the poet Yeats says, tread softly. You're on sacred ground when you're dealing with somebody else's beliefs. And we have 7 billion people in the planet, over 7 billion. And we have such richness of language and culture and music and art and history and belief traditions. But we have a history of violence and aggression and intolerance. And sometimes, if your beliefs are different to mine, I'm threatened and I'm fearful. And there is a tribalism about beliefs. So my gorgeous students, they're not my students, well, the students I have the privilege of working with, the young teachers, they're afraid of difference of beliefs at times, as I am too. They're afraid of saying the wrong thing, of doing the wrong thing. And so when they're in the schools, very often they ignore, they make invisible beliefs, and they're fearful of it. So I suppose my job is to talk about identity in a way that's very simple for children, hence, the images, and to reaffirm that to be different is to be normal, and to be normal is to be different, and difference is wonderful. It makes the world so interesting. It is such a positive thing. So I have to engender curiosity about religions and beliefs with the students that I teach. But I have to do it in a formal way, because in the Republic of Ireland, we have an overwhelmingly Catholic educational system, and I myself am Catholic. I love the Catholic faith. It's life-giving to me. But for many others, the word Catholic or Christian or God has different connotations. So the education system in Ireland, which is overwhelmingly Catholic, has to celebrate diversity of belief. And that's the work that I am engaged in now. Oops. Has anybody got a clicker? Does it work?
No, it only works with...
It doesn't work with that. Okay. Right. So just the facticity of the world is that there are so many different traditions, and even these percentages are contested and they're changing. So, there are many different beliefs in the world. And when I use the word belief, I mean religious, and I don't like the word non-religious. Language is very, very difficult. And we've seen the whole time the different language, the Belfast Agreement or the Good Friday Agreement. There's this complexity about language. So I suppose being aware of diversity is so important. And on the island of Ireland, we have a history of intolerance of religion, of sectarianism. And this diversity is not always greeted as something positive. It's not always seen as an advantage. And there are huge difficulties. And I don't think we can underestimate those difficulties if we're to be honest. But I don't think they're insurmountable. But I think there are, we have to be realistic when it comes about learning from diverse beliefs. So what kind of things do we do with children in schools? So this is an exercise that we might do. So I want you to look at that just for a second. What do you see? I want you to turn to the person beside you, listen. Do you hear me? You know I'm a teacher. Listen to what they say and then tell them what you see. Okay, just very quickly. Quick exercise. What do you see?
Something terribly aesthetic. I just think sad.
Okay.
Not pushing.
Not pushing. Okay. Just a quick exercise. Can anybody tell me, what do you see?
A word liar.
Liar. The word liar. Does anybody else see anything different?
Wait, what did they see?
Liar.
Liar.
L-I-A-R. Did anybody see anything different?
I saw the face.
Saw a face. Okay. Somebody saw something. Different people have different ways of seeing things. We're all looking at the same thing, but we see it. We live in the one world, but we interpret it differently. And the community of interpreters enriches our capacity to experience, to interpret the world. So just very, very simply with children, we want them to appreciate diversity, difference, and not to be threatened by it, by interpretations that differ from theirs, to be enriched by it. So this here is a woman called Professor Marie Parker Jenkins, and she's done amazing work about identity and religious identity, belief identity, and education. And she's worked all over the world. And she says you can have such a superficial approach in an educational system, what she calls the saris, steel band, and samosas approach. So you teach people, and Eid Mubarak to our Muslim brothers and sisters today, but you teach people about the 5 pillars of Islam, and they learn a song, and then you send the teachers into schools, and they do a kind of a belief tourism, very superficial, very trite. They do the 5 Ks of Sikhism, they do the principles of Buddhism, and it's very trite and very superficial, and it's quite book-based. And what can we do with this? She says, we're reinforcing stereotypes. So the very tool, the educational context, and it's supposed to be liberating, it is reproducing superficial stereotypes. And we need to shatter this. We need to be critical. We need to be sensitive to complexity. And she basically says that we need a hard-nosed critique of what we're doing in our educational contexts. And she says, the subalterns. We're not just dealing with there's always a privileged group. She says, as educators, we have to say to ourselves, what does it feel like to be the person who's invisible, who's not privileged in this community? What am I doing as an educator to contribute to the invisibility of this group? So she's evoking the emphasis on critique. And another activity we might do is ask our students, the teachers, to describe themselves 5 words. Describe yourself in 5 words. If I had time, I would get you to do it. In order of importance. Who am I? In order of importance. And then to turn to the person beside you and look at their 5 words, if they're comfortable sharing them, and to see how many diverse senses of identity we have here. So diversity is not about you out there far away, as one of my friends said, about people with funny names, who wear funny clothes, who have nothing to do with me. diversity has to do with each and every one of us. So, it starts with me. So we go from me to you to we, and in religious education, me, you, we, God. So for some, God is also contested. So anyway, this is another activity, aesthetically even less pleasing. But we get activities where children, we say to them, what can you see? So again, visually, starting with very ordinary activities, multiplicities of interpretations. There's no right and wrong answer, but there are so many things. The more you look at these, there are optical illusions, all kinds of things. And to get us to talk about how we interpret, how we experience the world, how we see things differently. Well, the educational system I come from is, in the Republic of Ireland, is largely state-funded religious schools. 98% of the schools are religious, and they're from one or other of the traditions. Now, the fastest growing religion in the Republic of Ireland is Islam, and the fastest growing belief group is atheism, agnosticism, those who take no religion, who say, I've no religion. So how can we, in schools that are overwhelmingly Catholic in the Republic of Ireland and Christian, how can we facilitate the development of understanding and respect for a multi-belief democratic society? We're left with the fact that our school system doesn't reflect the diversity that's in our society. So we have we have a challenge. And for instance, most of the schools have multiple faiths. 16%, this was in 2010, and it's increased dramatically, have at least 6 different religions in the schools. And sometimes the teachers, they just shy away. They ignore. They're afraid of saying the wrong thing. So they do nothing in their learning to cope with diversity. We do have, in the Republic of Ireland, 2 state-funded Islamic schools. And this is a photograph here, Lin Islam. This is our Gaelic language, and so the children learn Arabic and Gaelic in the school. But we don't have enough Muslim schools. This is one of the things that we need to do, to have more state-funded Muslim schools and state-funded schools that address the needs of people. In 2012, the government in the Republic of Ireland decided that it was going to develop a whole new curriculum to educate all of the children in any school in Ireland about religions and beliefs. So it was going to be a state-based curriculum. And it hasn't been developed yet, but it is being developed. And we're thinking of how we might educate children more effectively to learn about religions and beliefs. And what we're working with is that they have accurate understanding, that they learn to respect different beliefs, that they have empathy. There's been an awful lot about empathy, and that they're critical of their own beliefs. I don't mean giving out, I mean thinking, asking why questions, big questions about their own beliefs and the beliefs of others. If I know anything about beliefs, it's the power of stories, all of the stories of the people that we've heard here. So books and traditional learning, this is not the way to go exclusively. So in the schools, we're moving away from reading about Buddhists or Hindus or agnostics in books, and we're moving far more towards face-to-face interaction between people and what's known as the dialogical approach, talking. I'm doing a monologue now. What's much better is talking to people, learning from people. So we're not just learning from the religious groups, we're also learning from atheists and humanists and agnostics who want their beliefs to be respected and recognized. And I suppose that's a lot of my work, is learning from the faith communities and the faith traditions. So in Mary Immaculate College, where I work, we held an inter-belief dialogue day to learn from people of different faiths and traditions. And this is hugely interesting, but it's not without its complications. And we had, for instance, here's Michael Nugent from Atheist Ireland. And Atheist Ireland feel that we should not have any religious involvement in schools. They say, look, as citizens, as taxpayers, the minute you introduce religion into education, you're privileging one religious group, and you are excluding those who are not of that religious tradition. So they want secular schools in Ireland. We really don't have secular schools in Ireland. So we have so much to learn from people, but the debate can be quite intense. Next to him here is a member, Keith Scott, of the Church of Ireland. So we got everybody together in Limerick in February to learn from them how can we teach children about religions and beliefs. And we had a dialogue, and we had to negotiate the terms of the dialogue. And the terms were, everyone is welcome, everyone is respected, we're in a safe place, everyone is invited to speak, but nobody's forced to. Each person listens to the voice of others, and sometimes that's the silent voice. And you appreciate the variety of perspectives. Nobody's to criticize anybody else, so everybody just speaks about themselves. I just speak about my belief. I don't speak about your belief. Everyone takes ownership of their own beliefs, and no one criticizes another person or tries to convert them. And we can disagree without being disagreeable. So we just had an interbelief dialogue day, and the government, the agents of the government, the NCCA, they were there because they're designing a curriculum for the entire school system in the Republic of Ireland. And they're just in the middle of it at present, but it's going to be based on dialogue. And so in our classrooms, we're going to have email dialogue to dialogue with children in other school, face-to-face dialogue, and the emphasis will be on listening and talking and realising in the old Irish Sean Uckle, Ní neart go cur le céile. We are only strong when we work together. Thank you.